Story 1. In South Korea, there is a presidential election next Tuesday, June 3rd. The previous president was impeached earlier this year after declaring martial law. He is the fifth president to face arrest. He is also the second president to be impeached within the last 10 years. Story 2. In Brazil, there is a lot of news about betting applications and advertisements being discussed in court. This includes topics ranging from sports betting to Fortune Tiger and similar subjects. Story 3. A mountain and glacier collapse in Switzerland, threatening a village and shooting rocks like bullets. Story 4. The news in the United Kingdom is being dominated by the incident in Liverpool recently. A man drove his car into a large crowd of people. Story 5. We had an elephant seal loose in a coastal city's streets. It was taken back to the beach. Don't worry, cute animal. Story 6. In Germany, until yesterday, objecting to the terms of Meta's data policy was possible. Major news outlets, such as public service television networks, had tutorials on how to object to the use of your Facebook and Instagram data for artificial intelligence training. Edit. Clearer language. I wrote until yesterday, because it was the latest possible date. Story 7. Our biggest news story in Australia at the moment is the record-breaking floods happening in New South Wales. Hundreds of homes have been deemed unlivable, and once waters recede and assessment teams can get in, it is predicted that the number will rise to thousands. Many people do not have home insurance, either because their homes are deemed uninsurable due to location and flood risk, or because they cannot afford it. Several people have also died. It is absolutely horrible. Story 8. French President Emmanuel Macron and his wife have been experiencing a tumultuous relationship. Yesterday, as they were disembarking from their official aircraft, she slapped him in the face on camera. He appeared shocked, then noticed the cameras, waved, forced a smile, and quickly returned to the plane to talk for a moment. They later exited the plane, avoiding each other and clearly still angry. They originally met when he was 15 and she was 35, as she was his drama teacher, with rumors starting from that time. Story 9. New Zealand has a dangerous new sport where men run directly at one another and collide. 3 days ago, a video emerged from an official event showing a losing player convulsing after being hit. A day later, a 19-year-old died from a head injury. Story 10. Canada Post is on the verge of a strike for very legitimate reasons. King Charles and his wife are visiting. Canadian Tire is buying the Hudson's Bay brand. Alberta is discussing book banning. Tuesday. Story 11. The World Expo in Osaka, Japan featured beautiful pavilions built by different countries to represent themselves, their cultures, and values. Cartier designed one for Japan called the Women's Pavilion. It is very pretty. Story 12. In Mexico, there have been recent killings of mayoral candidates and mayoral aides in the run-up to the election. There have also been protests shutting down services for a day, including teachers closing the Mexico City airport and other protesters shutting down the buses for the day. Story 13. Panama is experiencing a large layoff of workers. Chiquita is firing approximately 5,000 of its 7,000 workers in Panama due to strikes that began earlier this year. Story 14. Up in Canada, a company over 350 years old, founded for the fur trading industry and once owning a significant portion of what became Canada, is going out of business. It eventually became a major Canadian department store and was bought by an American private equity firm that mismanaged the company. It is currently in liquidation. All stores will be closed by June 1st. It is a major Canadian icon, known for its striped blankets, a reminder of its fur trading past. Some of its history is messy and ugly, but its history, for better or worse, is a big part of Canadian history. Story 15. I saw some Canadian geese the other day. So many babies. It should make the international news any day now. It looked like that, but geese instead. Story 16. From Puerto Rico, a United States territory but still somewhat detached from the United States in general. United States tourists in Puerto Rico are killing coquis, a very beloved native and protected frog. Several species are critically endangered. They spray the frogs with pesticide because they dislike the song the frogs sing every night, saying it prevents them from sleeping. Story 17. Victim 236 just died from the nightclub roof collapse in the Dominican Republic. The victim's husband also died. There are 136 children orphaned by this tragedy, as this place was popular among couples and family celebrations. Story 18. A group of junior ice hockey players are in court, accused of sexual offenses. It will be interesting to see how the case develops. Story 19. There is an unknown source of contamination in my town that is affecting our regional nature conservatory. Story 20. United States and European Union sanctions on Syria, some as old as 40 years, have been lifted. Syrians are now looking to rebuild their country after the brutal Assad regime was overthrown on the dawn of December 8, 2024. Story 21. In the United Kingdom, there is ongoing coverage of the Post Office Horizon scandal. Despite the government's efforts to compensate victims, many sub-postmasters remain dissatisfied with the process. Sir Alan Bates, a key campaigner, recently revealed that his compensation offer was less than half of what he claimed, criticizing the system as unfair and bureaucratic. The government is considering proposals to establish an independent body to oversee such compensation schemes in the future. Story 22. Here in Canada, King Charles III, the King of Canada, told Donald Trump that we are not for sale and will never become a part of the United States. The American media kept referring to him as Britain's King Charles, forgetting that he is the King of Canada. Story 23. I live in Leeds, England. Not long ago, a man walked down one of the busiest streets in the city on a Saturday during the popular pub crawl. He carried a crossbow and targeted women out having fun and drinking. He had radicalized himself with involuntary celibate content online. He posted on Facebook about wanting to cause carnage. Thankfully, the 2 women he injured are going to be okay. The attacker was killed afterward. It was unsettling because it happened in an area where I regularly shop. This incident highlights how real terrorist threats are nowadays. Story 24. In New Zealand, we are discussing whether a 21-day suspension from Parliament is too harsh a penalty for the leaders of a minor opposition party. They disrupted Parliament during the taking of a vote and broke the rules. The longest previous suspension was 3 days. There is a prima facie case that the government is using its majority to suppress the opposition. Story 25. There are a few in Australia. 1. Death cap mushroom poisonings. Machete attack in Victoria between gangs. Sales of machetes are now banned statewide. The coalition broke up and has now reunited because both political parties realized their mistakes. The search for Phoebe Bishop, a teenager who went missing under mysterious circumstances. Her roommates have both been charged with separate offenses, which likely relate to the case. Story 26. Just wanted to say this is a fantastic read. All of it. I suggest we do a weekly roundup of your country's or area's top story. Story 27. In another discussion, it was mentioned that people were upset because a right-wing politician refused to shake the hand of a far-right politician. This led to a debate about politeness and understanding the context. I pointed out that the far right in France tried to downplay a recent murder in which a black Muslim man was stabbed dozens of times by someone pretending to be a new convert. The murderer recorded the attack and directed Islamophobic, hateful language at the victim. I also noted that the far-right party was recently found guilty of corruption due to embezzlement of European Union funds. This is not recent news. It is over a month old. When I mentioned this, an American commenter said they had not heard about any of it. The corruption case is significant because Marine Le Pen is now barred from running for president. Story 28. For those who may not be aware, r/Global Talk is a subreddit where you can read about what is going on in the news all over the world. If I recall correctly, it was created from an AskReddit thread very much like this one. Story 29. Immigrants are being taken advantage of by being conned into paying tens of thousands of dollars for jobs in Canada that may or may not exist. Story 30. I am an American, but this news obtained elsewhere seems significant. India has surpassed Japan to become the world's 4th largest economy. Story 31. I actually know more American news than Canadian. I listen to the daily podcast from the New York Times and sometimes forget I am not American. It seems pretty quiet up here, but that is also because I am not paying enough attention. Story 32. Mostly about Israel and Gaza, and the man who was intoxicated and drove his car into the crowd in Liverpool. We are also seeing the usual Donald Trump controversies, but with our own media's bias spin as if it is normal. Story 33. 200 kilometers from my hometown, 7 united in suicide, $2.5 million debt, 3 generations of anguish. 2 grandparents, 2 adults, 3 children ages 12 to 15, 200 million rupees debt. 7 bodies in 1 car, rear windshield covered by a towel. Twin daughters aged 13, eldest son aged 15. Factory owner turned debtor, multiple properties seized by the bank. 3 generations reached the same conclusion in a car. Story 34. Contrary to what the president has been saying, the general consensus in my country is that we respect the United States of America significantly less than we did 6 months ago. Story 35. Germany's Minister of Education has invited Harvard University to come to Germany along with its expelled foreign students. There are now travel warnings about coming to the United States in Germany, the United Kingdom, France, and many other European countries. The economy in the United States is crashing significantly because of former President Donald Trump, and it is widely believed that this situation will not end well for anyone except the oligarchs who want to buy up the country. Story 36. Trump isn't just harming your country but also interfering where he doesn't belong. In the recent India-Pakistan conflict, neither India nor Pakistan agreed to sign a ceasefire. It was decided that the deputy general military officers of both nations would communicate and decide how to proceed. Every evening at 6, the Indian deputy general military officer and army personnel would update us on what had happened. That evening, before he could address us, Trump tweeted that he helped both countries use common sense and mediated a ceasefire, which never happened. Neither side could disagree because it would make them look bad, so we had to say we signed a ceasefire. This hypothetical ceasefire was naturally violated, causing more problems. Also, when everything was over, the Indian Prime Minister was going to address the nation, but 30 minutes before that, Trump tweeted again saying something along the lines of America helped solve the conflict. Any American who thinks Trump helped us is mistaken. There was no help. They made things worse, undermined our Prime Minister, and while yes, things didn't escalate, Trump's involvement could have caused a lot of problems. Every news channel in the country was criticizing the American government that day. Story 37. In Germany, global conflict coverage includes more history and nuance. United States media often skips that, which really changes how people understand things. Story 38. I am receiving many updates on the new artificial intelligence regulations in the European Union. I do not see much coverage of that in American media outlets. Story 39. For the first time since the 1970s, the King or Queen of Canada delivered the throne speech in Parliament today, rather than their representative. Story 40. You can always check out Breaking Points on YouTube. They are relatively unbiased and will criticize anyone deserving of it. A new batch of episodes is released daily, broken into specific topics. They are my only news source since the mainstream media in the United States is one-sided or dishonest. Story 41. In March 2025, a businessman in Antipolo shot 4 people, including his wife, during a road rage incident, sparking renewed calls for stricter gun control and traffic law enforcement. Story 42. I appreciate media's touch, legal all facts and democracy now. I am in the United States, so I hope my opinion counts. Once a week, I watch mainstream news and Fox News. At least once a week, I seek out English-speaking foreign broadcasts like France 24 English. I look for C-SPAN clips and check Congress.gov sometimes. I scan Hacker News, Reddit, Blue Sky, and Substack for anything obscure. When I listen to the president directly, I fact-check him immediately. I avoid Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Truth Social, and X completely. I fact-check as much as I can and listen to history documentaries about nations I am not well-versed in. I listen to economists like Jeffrey Sachs and the podcaster Economics Explained. I am open to learning from other sources. I also want to know what others are seeing. How varied is our information from person to person? When I hear the mainstream news or direct press briefings from the United States, I wonder how many people hear only that and are not questioning it. We have corruption throughout, but we are burning the house down to kill a spider nest, all while less than half of us think insurance will build us a new luxury high-rise in its place and that they will not get burned. Meanwhile, the whole neighborhood is in danger of being burned down along with us, and they are making moves to protect themselves from us. At least, that is how it looks to me. Story 43, South African here. Generally, I think we used to view the United States as the leader of the free world and as a country we should look up to. Western culture influenced us greatly. However, over the last few years, there has been a divide. Right-wing conservatives here still view the United States as the best country with the best leader. Meanwhile, most liberals think the United States is finished. Story 44. I'm American, and when that Signal story came out, there were holes in the reporting. Everyone was interested in the foolishness of the people in the group chat, but no one was focusing on why we were so determined to attack the Houthis. Some reported that the Houthis were attacking shipping in the Red Sea. That was as far as the American press took it. What was not reported was what I found out on Al Jazeera. The Houthis announced that they would start attacking shipping in the Red Sea to draw attention to Israel blocking humanitarian aid to Gaza. But that did not make the news, only the bumbling bureaucrats. Story 45. I think everyone in the world is receiving misleading, distracting news rather than actual, factual, and nonpartisan information that people need to make informed decisions. Even simple questions, such as whether it is safe to swim in my local body of water, are difficult to answer. I no longer trust the information I receive. Story 46. Obligatory note. I am not a non-American, but most of my family are not Americans. I swear this is not an advertisement. I have to hand it to Ground News here. It is actually really good at showing blind spots in American news media. I do not even have an account. I just use the free version, and it gives me a feed of news from outside the United States. Story 47. In Sweden, live pornography shows have just been outlawed. It feels like there are other issues that could be the focus, but I am not particularly complaining. Story 48. Turns out Christian Democratic Union caucus chief and former health minister Jens Spahn distributed more questionable government funds to his private sector associates than previously believed. Story 49. In Australia, New South Wales just passed a bill so that general practitioners can receive special training to diagnose and treat attention deficit hyperactivity disorder with medication. Instead of people waiting more than 6 months on a waiting list and paying over $1,000 to see a psychiatrist once, you might need 3 appointments to finalize the diagnosis. Story 50. In India, a massive war was going on between India and Pakistan. It happened because terrorists from Pakistan attacked Indian civilian tourists. Story 51. The trial of Richard Satchwell has reached the deliberation stage in Ireland. Tina Satchwell, Richard's wife, went missing in 2017. He claimed she had left him, taking suitcases and thousands in cash. The story was unbelievable for many reasons. He continued to make public pleas for her to come home until Gardaí, the Irish police, found her body buried under the stairs in their home in 2023. He is now claiming he killed her in self-defense. Story 52. Currently seeing news reports about how Donald Trump is putting social media filters to check if they have said anything mean about him and banning them from entering the country. I am thinking that this surely violates the First Amendment. Story 53. Many Americans seem ignorant or misinformed about the seriousness of the comments regarding Canada becoming the 51st state. We are boycotting your country en masse. We will never become a 51st state without putting up a fight. Every time this so-called joke comes up, we see it as a threat of war. Canada and the United States have been close allies with a strong history, but that friendship is gone. This is a deep, generational betrayal, not something we will forget in 4 years and be friends again. Story 54. South Korea has its presidential election next week on Tuesday. I honestly do not care who wins. I am just glad I get a free holiday, as I am not a Korean citizen. But it is all election talk here. Story 55. Based on the comments on Reddit, the rest of the world gets more world news than Americans and more unbiased news about America than Americans. Story 56. In Argentina, all I am hearing about is how the star of the Eternaut complained about the price of empanadas on a talk show, and now it is a big deal. Miley supporters think he is a spoiled movie star overpaying for luxury treats for US dollars per empanada. The finance minister weighed in. Everyone was talking about empanadas all day. Darren is correct. The price has gone up maybe 30% in 6 months, even on the cheapest fast food empanadas. I love that this is a big story. The original conversation was so mild and genteel. News in the United States gives me an ulcer by comparison. Story 57. We have a new sport from Australia where two large men run at each other to see who gets knocked down. It is controversial in New Zealand because a child died participating with friends. Story 58. News that the American government is untrustworthy and interfering, and their president taking credit for things he did not do, like some slacker in a college group project. He did not have anything to do with brokering a ceasefire between India and Pakistan. The man is a clown for real. Story 59. It looks like you are either starting World War III as the new Nazis or about to enter the most recorded civil war ever. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.